Hello and welcome to the historic Brown Cup here in Victoria, British Columbia. My name is Paul Haysom. I'm joined by Zoe Cruikshank, a former Brown Cup champion and a former UVic Vike. Now this race is all about power. Quick apology, we had a bit of a power issue, but we are back on the air and we are back in the race, and we are watching the men's reserve race to kick things off. And Zoe, talk about what we're seeing right now. It looks like UBC has had a very strong start here.
UBC has had a very strong start here. You can see they've opened about a quarter of a length on UVic here. UVic nice and tight to their puddles there. You want to make sure they're still coming in clean water as they come up to the trestle. So this is the first point that they're getting some crowd contact, and yeah, it's great to see the drones shot, and we can hear the crowd just starting to get excited to power these crews through the trestle.
So this is the first of 4 races you're going to be watching here. And thank you for joining us on CHEK, CHEK Plus, and CHEK's YouTube channel. And yeah, you can see some great overhead shots there from our drone. They're coming under the trestle. They're getting underway, and it looks like they've got at least a boat length, almost a boat length here ahead of UVic at this point, Zoe.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing ahead here. You can see Edward's starting to take his turn there. He's kind of in control of the line right now, so it's up to, you can see it's quite close to that red buoy. UVic has to go around that red buoy as well.
Right.
So I'm hoping that their cox is going to steer nice and tight there and try to follow them down the course as they head towards Bay Street there.
Erica Sales is the cox for UVic. Edward Lalonde is the cox for UBC. Now, UVic is on the Esquimalt side, and there's a lot of debate. There's a coin toss, and you get to decide your lane or your station, as it were. Now, how much goes into that? How important is which side that you're on, Zoe?
Personally, I'm a firm believer that you can win on either side.
Okay.
I mean, I've done it,
Yeah,
so I can attest to that statement. However, it's a big part about how the crew feels. So these crews will have practiced on both sides with both the JV and varsity, but also for Trial 8s, which both the UBC and UVic men's and women's crews run, which is a mixture of the varsity and JV boats for the first 2.7K. So this is not the first time that some of these athletes who may be their first Brown Cup, but not the first time racing the majority of this course.
You can see the passion on their faces there. They're trying to dig as deep as they can. And we weren't able to show you the course map just off the top. As mentioned, we had a couple of issues. I do want to mention the course because it's grueling. 3.5K. It all started at Gorge Point Beach near Tillicum Narrows. That first 1,300 meters had the racers come to the Trestle Bridge right by our broadcast location here at Gorge Narrow Rowing Club. From there, it's a 600-meter dash to the Bay Street Bridge, followed by an 850-meter sprint to the iconic Johnson Street Bridge. And now, Zoe, when the arms and legs are just nothing left, you've got that final 750-meter sprint to the finish line, which all wraps up in the Inner Harbour. How much do you take it, portion by portion in this race instead of that whole 3.5K?
I think that's the only way you can take it. It looks pretty grueling when you're looking at, 10 to 13 minutes of work ahead of you, and so you just kind of section by section. They're just coming past Bay Street here, so they've passed the 2-kilometer mark, which is the length of the traditional rowing race at this point. And so for this point, it's all that winter training that's coming into play here.
You're digging as deep as you can at this point of the race, and look at these stunning shots. I mean, Victoria's certainly sparkling today, and it's warm. We were noticing when we were just standing outside a couple of moments ago, it's really feeling warm. So talk about the conditions, and that's an added element, isn't it, Zoe?
Yeah, the weather is definitely not chilly. It's not raining. Those are great things. You can see a little ripple on the water there, but we don't have no waves, no white
caps on a Saturday, thankfully, yeah.
I believe it's a little bit of a headwind, which is often nice to kind of set the boat up. What you're not looking for is that crosswind, which kind of makes this dull rocking in the boat, which is not ideal. But you can see UBC looking pretty clean there going around. They're about to turn to Johnson Street, which is that kind of last big crowd engagement.
And that is always a lot of fun. There's a crowd that forms on the Johnson Street Bridge, pretty much on every bridge along the route, but once they hit the iconic Johnson Street Bridge, the crowd really goes, and that I'm sure helps. And, last year it was a clean sweep for UBC. They won both the men's and women's reserve races. They won the men's and women's varsity races, and it looks like they're off to a pretty good start here in 2025, Zoe.
Yeah, I'd like to see. Erica looked like she was taking a pretty aggressive line there.
She did. That was a tight line, wasn't it?
That was a tight turn, which is good because as they're on the Esquimalt side, that's a place where they can make up some ground. Edward has to give them space around that corner. They can kind of take a shortcut through there to cut some ground down. So hopefully she's really encouraging their crews. Doesn't look like UBC has grown the lead from when we've seen it after the trestle here. They really went out hard, and it seems to be paying off now. But that last 750, as you mentioned, when the legs are really burning, that's when we'll see if they went out too fast.
Yeah, and talk about that digging deep right now. I mean, that's what coxswain Erica Sales from UVic is trying to say. All right, you've got it all. Let's leave it all out there right now. How do you get everyone on board with that in that moment?
I think it's a lot of trust that comes down from all of your practices, right? Maybe these crews haven't been set for weeks and months, but when everyone's doing the same training in the same environment together, there's a pretty cohesive attitude. You can see the crowd there.
That's awesome.
That will only get bigger as the day goes on, and yeah, hopefully that's the little jolt that these boys need to take it all the way into the Inner Harbour.
You know, it's tough to gauge from some of these boat cameras, and fantastic shots here from our roll focus team. A couple of boat cameras. We have some cameras on land as well, but also Dan Batchelor is working the drone. Dan, the man on the drone, and you really get a good sense of the lead and what you're seeing. And there we go. We're coming into the iconic Inner Harbour, and if UVic wants to try and compete here, they're really going to have to push here, Zoe.
Absolutely. I just saw some kayakers there, so hopefully they're getting out of the way. I would not want to be in the way of either of these two crews pushing down. Hopefully Erica's trying to drive as close as she can towards that harbor air and drive those boys to the finish line.
After the Johnson Street Bridge, what do you have as far as landmarks? Are you trying to knock things off? I mean, obviously there's a bit of a boat dock there. There, as you mentioned, there's the Haven Spa, then a bit of a pirate ship there. Are you looking at things like that, or are you just head down digging, trying to win this race?
Well, the athletes are head down digging. They're actually facing away, so they have no idea what's going on. The Coxies, they're less looking at what's on the water, and at least I'm going to give a little bit of my secret tips here, but they're looking at the skyline. So when it's coming into the finish line, the Parliament buildings there, that's kind of the Canada flag on the Parliament buildings, which is what I would always kind of point towards. You can see they're just digging in there. Pain faces are on.
I love that shot because it really tells the story, doesn't it? Of
absolutely.
Of the grueling race that it is. That is the Campbell Dowd Cup, which is what the reserve teams are going for, and it looks like UBC might have this one in the bag, Zoe.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a little bit of a sprint lift here from UVic. Try to lift that rate up and give them as much of a run for their money as they can as they come into the last 500 meters here.
And they are digging deep now. It looks like UBC is in control. UVic going to need a bit of a miracle as they come into the beautiful Inner Harbour. You saw a shot of the Parliament buildings there. That UBC team really looks dialed in right here. Yeah,
you can see that bow seat. I saw him have a little look. There's the finish line buoys there, and that's a successful claim to fame. They won last year, and this is the second time in a row that they've won this now.
So back-to-back wins for UBC in the men's reserve race. And Zoe, we didn't talk about it just because we had a bit of a truncated start off the top of the show, but it was a clean sweep last year for Team UBC, and this is a good start for them here on the 2025 races.
Absolutely. But as we know with Brown Cup, anything can happen, and yeah, one out of four done.
You're not panicking yet. Yes, that is what
I'm
you're saying.
I'm not panicking just yet. No, I don't think that panic does anybody any good. You can see that Olympic skyline there. I was telling one of my friends that's my favorite skyline. You see it as you leave Elk Lake every morning.
Yeah.
So the UVic rowers know that well. I think those might be our kayakers there that you can see in the drone.
They're thinking, we got to get to shore here to watch the next three races that are coming up here. And coming up next, we do have the women's reserve race. But look at the celebration there. These guys, they're happy, but they're also tired as heck right now, aren't they?
Absolutely. You take a moment to grab your breath there, and then you have to turn around and row yourself back up to the start line. It's about just about 2K back to the start there.
Take your time. It's a lot nicer if you've won. All right, so that's one race down. We've got 3 races to go. We're going to take a very short break. More from the Brown Cup, brought to you by Hudson Boat Works after this.
my husband was going to bring me a walker. So
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
could- Oh yeah, it's kind of, you know, kind of iffy, I think.
The sun is shining, the rowers are ready. It is race day on the Gorge Waterway. Hello and welcome to the prestigious Brown Cup Regatta presented by Hudson Boatworks. This is a historic showdown between the UBC Thunderbirds and the UVic Vikes, and the setting is nothing short of stunning. Thanks for watching on CHEK, on CHEK Plus, and on CHEK's YouTube page. We are honored to be broadcasting on the traditional territories of the Esquimalt Songhees First Nation. My name is Paul Haysom. It's an honor to be here along with Zoe Cruikshank, pride of Powell River, a former UVic Vike, and a Brown Cup champion. Zoe, talk about the first race we just saw, the men's reserve.
First race was, you know, as we're going to get 4 times today, a show of just power and a lot of hard work for all of the athletes there. Win or loss, you know that they have been putting in the work from pretty much September. A lot of them maybe in their first year. If they didn't make CUs, this is the big goal, is that JV race. They've just been training all winter through the ergs, through the early mornings, and paying off today. Yeah,
and paying off indeed for UBC. They're 1-0 to start the day. Let's take a look at the course. It is that 3.5 kilometer grind. It all starts at Gorge Point Beach near Tillicum Narrows. That first 1,300 meters gets the racers to the Trestle Bridge right by our broadcast location here at Gorge Narrow Rowing Club. From there, it is a 600-meter dash to the Bay Street Bridge, followed by an 850-meter sprint to the iconic Johnson Street Bridge. And now when those arms and legs are burning, it's an all-out 750-meter sprint to the finish line in the Inner Harbour. And it really is a methodical race, isn't it? Because you're not just pedal to the metal. You got to pick your points here, Zoe.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's definitely some strategy involved. You know, crews, as you mentioned before, coming out a few days before to kind of practice, get comfortable with the course. And also Trial 8's doing some practice on the course, going from the Trestle to Johnson Street. That Inner Harbour is a special permission, only for race day.
I love that. All right, we're looking at the tail of the tape. We're about to see the women's reserve races. They have the lineup announcement, and they have the ceremonial coin toss. And that is when the winner of that toss gets to choose their lane or their station. And you said something interesting in that first race. You don't think it truly matters which side you're on.
I think that I don't think that there's a better side, Paul. I think that there's a side that maybe the crew feels more comfortable in. Oftentimes it comes down to the coxswain, what side they're more comfortable in. But I think that on any given day, you can win on any given side if you have a better race.
There we go. There is that coin toss. I believe it's going to be UVic who won the toss, so they're going to decide.
Yeah, Paige Lethem there, choosing Victoria's side. She told me before that this may have been the moment that she was the most nervous of, is whether to pick heads or tails, but she told me it came to her last night. She chose heads, and it paid off victorious for her. UVic Reserve women will be on the Victoria's side, with the UVic or UBC Reserve women on the Esquimalt side.
That race just moments away. Let's hear first from the captains.
I think we're so excited. We're in such a fortunate position this year, coming in with a lot of momentum off of last year, and a win in the 8 at CUs this year. I think the girls are really excited. Last year we had sort of an underdog mentality, and this year it's definitely been a different ball game coming in this position.
Obviously there's not that many racing opportunities in the year, and Brown Cup is a big one, especially because it's on home turf and it's racing under all the bridges, especially Johnson Street, so we can actually get a crowd out for once, people cheering. And yeah, it's a really fun way to end off the season, so very excited. Yeah, I would say for the most part returning athletes, especially a lot of lightweights coming from CUs. So yeah, a little bit of experience having raced Brown Cup before as well. And I think a lot of excitement in that crew too. They're a pretty high energy crew, so they like to have some fun. I think they're ready to rip it down the race course.
So about 5 of the girls on the boat are returning from the JV boat last year, so really excited with some experience in the boat. And then we have 3 girls that haven't raced Brown Cup. This is their first time, so there's a lot of excitement there. And I think we've done a really good job gelling as a crew coming into this. Gosh, it was an amazing feeling last year. I can't speak higher of like how good that felt as a program. And so we're really excited again to be coming off of that momentum. And it was just really special to feel a part of something that's bigger than you and to see like all your teammates succeed here.
Well, I've gotten a taste of what it feels like to win and to lose. And I know that everyone is really, really hungry to win, especially Brown Cup. It feels very good in front of a home crowd to take home that victory.
And this has got to be an interesting moment. You've been exciting. It's been building up for it all day, but you're also trying to ground yourself, I'm sure, Zoe.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially being a coxie sitting in that seat, you're really just trying to, one, align your boat and make sure you have the best possible point picked to begin the race, but also just make sure everyone's calm, make sure everyone's head's in the boat. The really nice part about starting up at Tillicum is that there's not a crowd there.
Right.
So there's not a lot of distractions, which is actually quite a nice feature of that. It's pretty calm. There's some volunteers there. You can see they're trying out boat holding for the first year here. So you can see that UBC is trying to spin into position.
So tell us about boat holding. What is that we're looking at right now?
You can see off the bow of the boat there's a volunteer who's going to hold the stern of the boat.
Yeah.
And then the bow pair of the boat is going to bring that bow ball around and line it up. And then the hope is that the current is not going to pull them in their way and they will remain stationary. Quite a quick start when you're starting here on the ocean. Yeah, and off they will go. Yeah,
off there we'll go. We are just moments away from the start of the women's reserve race. It is the second of 4 races here on the day at the Brown Cup. They're going after the Howard Campbell Joe Dowd Cup. The Campbell Dowd Cup, that started back in 1991 when Howard Campbell from UVic and Joe Dowd from UBC came up with the idea for a friendly duel. I don't know if they ever thought it was going to turn into this prestigious race, but good on them for starting a fantastic race. And we just saw that shot from our drone camera there, and I thought it was really telling of this is very much not a straight race. There's a lot of twists and turns along the way, isn't there, Zoe?
Absolutely, absolutely. There obviously is a lot of twists and turns, and you're dealing with the natural environment. But as much as we possibly want, we want to drive the straightest course because that is the shortest course. So that's the coxing challenge, and I think the best part. Off we go here with the UVic Reserve women versus the UBC Reserve women.
And which side is which? So we have UVic on the Esquimalt side?
UVic's on the Victoria side.
On the Victoria
furthest
side,
from us. UBC
yes.
is the closest to us in the picture here.
Yes.
Nice dead even start. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, so that is a strong start from both sides. They're neck and neck to kick things off. So you see UBC, they're on the closer side of your screen. UVic on the left side of your screen as you see the two teams there.
I think those are actually the men's lineups there. So I believe it is Sadie Green coxing the UVic
yes.
women and
Isabella Howley.
Isabella Howley coxing
Cox.
the UBC. This is Isabella's, I believe, her second Brown Cup. This is Sadie's first Brown Cup. So we'll see how that plays in. There's some of these athletes, Paige with the coin toss, as well as Stella Fraser, who's in the UBC boat. I believe this is their 4th Brown Cup, racing each other every time.
They get sick of each other at this point.
Never. Both of those are actually Victoria girls.
That's
grew
awesome.
up rowing together. But there's also some people in their first years, first Brown Cup. Exciting on both sides. Got a little bit of a fast pace here.
Yeah, they're not going that fast. We just had a bit of a camera, but of course this is live programming. You are watching live the Brown Cup here on CHEK Plus and the CHEK YouTube channel. And it looks like UVic has got off to a very strong start here, and they needed that this year, Zoe.
Absolutely, yeah. In all rowing races, having a strong start is important. Obviously, you don't want to burn the gas all the way at the beginning, but being able to see your competitors being a little bit ahead definitely has good morale for the crew. This portion right here is quite tight. It's about the narrowest part of the race here.
Yes.
It's quite loud as well. The voices kind of echo, and so you really have to be focused at this point, staying together. There's still kind of getting those nerves out as you settle down from the start. So looking to see nice clean blade work from both crews here.
And that is that Tillicum Narrows area you're talking about. It definitely gets narrows. That first 1,300 meters to get to the Trestle Bridge. And are you thinking of that in the back of your mind, saying, okay, once we get to the Trestle Bridge, we know we're 1,300 meters in, we are now settled, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It depends on the crew. Some people like to hear the numbers for the meter. Some people like to hear the landmarks. Some crews don't want to hear anything at all, and they just want to follow the race plan.
Just say dig.
They just want to follow the race plan. But yeah, about as it opens up here, that's the 1K mark, and there's normally, we'll see some moves. It looks like UBC may have a little move there, maybe have 1 or 2 seats from the drone shot there.
Yeah, we were talking about that sun shining. A little bit of cloud has now covered. You can see a bit of wind that's blowing as well.
Ooh,
and it looks
tight
like
blades, tight blades.
Really tight. Those are right side by side there. And it looks like UBC.
Oh, that might be a little clash there. Might be a little clash.
Okay, and we do have race officials, the umpire behind. They're watching that. What are they watching for there, Zoe?
They're watching to make sure both crews are respectful of that golden line. Looks like Sadie may have turned away from that. Not sure whose fault that was. The umpires will call crews in either direction. They'll point the flag and give crews kind of warnings. They look like they've spaced each other out right now. And yeah, UBC maybe has a seat, maybe 2 seats as we come out of pipeline and in towards the trestle. They got about 300 meters of open water before they go through side by side.
Yeah, and that is such an iconic shot. And you can see the trestle bridge here. That is the 1,300 meter mark, and most races are about 2,000 meters for these 8 teams. So are they in that zone, or do they think about the entire race at this point?
I think about, well, in terms of the training,
yeah.
This is the race. They're training for Brown Cup. They're not training for a 2K race, and so a lot of the training tends to be a little bit longer coming out of the winter. And really gearing up for this race here. And
UBC has taken a slight advantage, not a ton though. Again, great shots here from Dan Batchelor on our drone camera here. You get a great shot and you get a great crowd watching at the Trestle Bridge. It's right by our broadcast location here, and you really get a sense of how many people are watching and paying attention to this race, Zoe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can see the crowd on the bridge there. We'll start to hear them soon from our broadcast location. And yeah.
Oh yeah, there they go. They're really cheering. They're hooting and hollering. They're cheering for their sides. And this is a race you mentioned. This is a duel, no doubt, but it's also something that gets circled on the calendar for both schools, isn't it?
Yeah, I just saw the umpire raise their flag there.
Again,
looks like
very
Sadie's
close.
quite close to the far wall there, so I think UBC will have to move over, kind of starting. That's a hand up there from Izzy acknowledging the umpire.
She's saying I made a mistake there.
Maybe not a mistake, but
okay.
I've adjusted my course. I heard you. It takes some time to kind of make those changes happen in a big boat like an 8. So even if she applies some pressure to the steering, it might take a little bit of time. So
it's more so understood.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, I got it. And we can see them going past our broadcast booth here, and they are neck and neck. This is a tight race at the 1,300 meter mark right now. They're in a 600 meter sprint between Trestle Bridge and the Bay Street Bridge, which is the 1,900 meter mark. And it looks like UBC is starting to try and pull away, but UVic has them very much in their sight, Zoe.
Absolutely. Contact has not been broken yet, and this first turn to the trestle does favor that Esquimalt side. So UVic really has to, stay gritty here, stay locked in, and that turn out of Bay Street does favor them. So if they can hold on to this, they can kind of capitalize on that turn there. So that's all about kind of Sadie's strategy, and yeah, you can see they're coming up to the, what beautiful water conditions today.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's a stunning shot there. Get a really good sense of the race here from our drone camera. And what would you be looking for? So you've been on these boats before. You're digging. Are you talking to the other members? Is it entirely the coxswain that's talking to everyone on board?
There's a little yips. There's a little yaps
let's go, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're tired and there's not a lot of words. Sometimes it's a grunt. Sometimes it's not really coherent.
I speak grunt, actually, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you can see there's Paige and Sarah right on their screen there. That's Paige's final race as a Vike right here, and she's pushing along.
What are you seeing in the faces right now, Zoe? What are you looking for there if you're the coxswain?
I think they're looking pretty strong there. I think from both crews there, you want to see, this is the point where you don't want to see people fade. This is the point where you really have to press coming through that kind of break through the 2K mark. There's nobody really stands on the Bay Street Bridge, so you're kind of in your own zone here, trying to really stay internal. This is the point where those little yips from your teammates there can really encourage you along.
And you are very much a team. It's an individual push that you have to have, but it's very much a team mentality. That's the best part about the rowing 8s here. You're watching Brown Cup coverage.
Here it is, coming back.
There they are. They're pushing big time. And this is the time to do it because you kind of get that inside line off the Bay Street Bridge, don't you?
Absolutely. You feel like it's coming a little bit more as you get that momentum around the turn.
That Esquimalt side has to do a bit more of an awkward turn to turn back eventually to the Johnson Street Bridge.
Yep, they'll have the inside turn to Johnson, and then the Victoria side has the inside into the final turn to the finish line. So there's about 2 for either side. And it's all about how you can strategize through that and how everyone's working together.
We're a couple minutes away here from the finish line, and both teams are certainly digging deep. UVic has made up some of the lead that UBC had, but it's going to be very close. Here we see this Bay Street Bridge splits, 209.6, 209.8, so they are very much neck and neck right now, Zoe.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the point where you just have to stick together, and it all comes down to that rhythm that you've been practicing. I want to see both crews nice and tight around that blue barge there, and line themselves up for a fantastic race through Johnson.
So how much is preparing for that line? Once you know that line, you say, okay, we're going to try and take it tight, take it wide. Does it depend on where you are in that race?
I mean, I think it depends on the coxswain, but myself, I'm never going to drive a longer line if that's an option.
Let's go tighter,
there. I want to do.
Oh, again, there's the umpire with another flag there.
So I think they're telling UBC that they need to start their turn. Izzy may have tried to hold off that turn so that UVic had to go wide. That's also a strategy, playing on the inside. You know, it's all about strategy. And so you also want to play fair, but you also want to have your strategy. And,
you got to have your
play
strategy.
Your game. That's how sports work.
Okay, so this is the 850-meter sprint between the Bay Street Bridge and the Johnson Street Bridge. You can see they're coming up on that iconic Johnson Street Bridge, and it doesn't look like there's fans on that main part, but once they get underneath the bridge, you see how many fans are culminating on the pedestrian walkway there, and people are very much dialed in. This is going to be a tight finish, Zoe.
Absolutely, and that's what we love about Brown Cup. Going through that Johnson Street, it's loud. It's loud. Normally as a coxswain, I wouldn't talk because it just echoes, and you already have the crowd.
You said let them take us home, sort of thing.
Exactly. Let them give them that little bit of pep in their step for that 750, and then it's that 500-meter push to the finish after you lose the crowd, and it's all about the crew at that point.
And you're there, you're with your team, and we are coming down to the final stretch here. Once they get under the Johnson Street Bridge, it is that final 750-meter sprint, and it looks like UBC has added a little bit of a lead. Hard to tell really from that vantage point, but it looks like they've added just maybe a little bit, Zoe.
Looks like they've added a little bit of lead. It looks like UVic's also picked up the rate a little bit.
Yeah.
UVic has quite a few lightweights in this boat, so they maybe add a little bit of a higher rate. That's genuinely how lightweight racing works.
And there's the fans just hooting and hollering. What a great shot that is underneath the iconic Johnson Street Bridge.
Yeah, you know that both crews are just really hurting right now, but they're going to use that energy from the crowd. There's another acknowledgement from Izzy, so she needs to still give enough room to Sadie on this inside.
You're seeing those are very, very tight lines, aren't they? Yeah.
And sometimes people like a little clash, like to win the clash, as it's called. But as much as we would like a nice clean race because that makes for the fairest race.
And it's a clean Inner Harbour, not a lot of waves in there, so it's going to make for a fantastic finish. And what a finish we are in for here. They are past the Johnson Street Bridge, 750 meters to the finish line. You can see the seaplanes, you can see the crowd. Everyone wants to see how this one is going to end, Zoe, and it's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight. It might come down to that final turn on Victoria's side. So that final coin toss decision from Paige might be paying off. You can see that those girls are emptying the tank right now. That's exactly what Sadie's saying, and they are going maximum capacity, maximum velocity, and not a lot of thoughts are happening right now except for press my legs down.
Maximum effort. Well, what's burning right now? It's got to be the arms, got to be the legs, got to be the head as well.
It's the lungs. It's the lungs.
The lungs,
it's the legs. It's everything.
The lungs, the legs. Oh, here we go. We are just about the 11-minute mark, and these two teams are flying. They're making fantastic time, and it is going to be a very tight finish. There you can see they are neck and neck as we get very close to the finish line. What are you watching for in these final moments, Zoe?
Well, I'm watching the umpires there, making sure that everyone's driving a clean line. Looks like a little bit of a sprint maybe from UBC there, lifting the rate up. And so it's that final thing, when you've been practicing. When these boats have been training against the varsity boats since the boats have been set.
Yeah.
And so, they've practiced sprints, and these boats have been really pushed by those varsity crews, and now they're being pushed by their competition.
Yeah, they're pushing right to the finish line as well. There it is, the Parliament buildings, the big Canada flag. Of course, this is a fantastic, you can see the buoys in the sights there, and UVic putting a final push here. It is going to come right down to the wire.
It is going to come right down to the wire. Sadie driving that inside line. That might do it there. That might do it.
It looks like they've got a lead. It's tough to tell again from this vantage point, but it is going to be very tight. It looks like UVic's come ahead, haven't they?
It is going to be extremely tight. That finish line's also on a bit of an angle, and so
I believe that UVic has just won, and there they are celebrating. The UVic Vikes reserve women come from behind to win the second race of the day. What a race that was.
What a race that was. Back and forth, a little bit tight with the blades there. And really, you know, that rhythm, that passion, that final turn, that final victorious side coming together for them. But what a fantastic race to be side by side for 3.5 kilometers.
That is unbelievable. And you see the difference there. So UVic won by 3.8 seconds. They really came on because once they hit the Johnson Street Bridge, it looked like maybe they were behind, even just by a nose.
Absolutely. I think UBC probably had about 4 seats on the final side there. And so whether it be that turn, whether it be the energy from Johnson Street Bridge, you know, they do have a little bit of a home crowd advantage.
They do.
We do consider it neutral waters because neither of these crews train here full time. But they're definitely, I was at the UVic alumni night last night, and there definitely is a large alumni presence, honestly, from both sides. But definitely a large UVic alumni presence that we could.
That is fantastic. And that was Sadie Green with a big smile on her face. She coxed her way to victory, and what a race to end the season. That is 2 races in the books, 1 for UBC, 1 for UVic. No clean sweep this year. You're watching the Brown Cup presented by Hudson Boatworks. We'll be back with the varsity races after this.
There we go.
Welcome back to the iconic Brown Cup Regatta presented by Hudson Boatworks. Whew, what a first couple of races we have. My name is Paul Haysom. I'm joined by Liam Parsons from Hudson Boatworks. You've also had a few rowing races back in your day. I want to get to that in a minute, but just talk about those first two races. What did you see?
Yeah, well, some great racing out there. The second women's race, the reserve race, UVic made a great push to come back at the end, and it was a fantastic finish. Okay,
so Liam was in the 2008 Olympic Games, won a bronze medal in the men's lightweight 4. It's a race that doesn't exist anymore, so you're one of the last to have the bronze from that, right?
Yeah, the last Canadian medalist for that event, yeah.
That's very cool.
It's sad to see it go because it was an incredibly competitive event, but doesn't fit with the Olympic program any longer.
Well, it fits with our program, so thanks for joining this program. And I want to talk about Hudson Boatworks and why you wanted to get involved with such an iconic race here.
Well, it's sorry. We try to support our customers in the most important events of their season, and this event stands out as a highlight of the UVic and UBC calendar, and so it's important for us to be there to support them and make sure that all goes well with their equipment and that the race is decided by the athletes on the water.
Yeah, that's right. And you're a central sales manager, but maybe tell us what Hudson Boatworks does, because you guys do so much and right across the country as well, right?
Sure, yeah. So we're Canada's premier boat builder. So we make rowing shells, and we only make rowing shells. We're focused entirely on the competitive market. So we started in '81, and they're going strong these many years later. So yeah, we build boats for people who are starting rowing and people at the Olympics, and so we have customers who have learned to row in the Hudson and competed at the Olympics in the Hudson.
Athlete focused, technology driven. That's the name of what's on the boats there, and that's really talk about the technology side of it. How far has that technology come from the years and years and when you first started rowing?
Well, when I started rowing, I learned to row in a wooden boat.
Yes.
So yeah, and the first Brown Cup, they were racing in composite boats, but they were still very early stages. And so the boats are the design of them is now done by computers, naval architects. The process for implementing new design is rigorously tested. So the boats now are lighter, more durable, more reliable than ever before.
And getting into schools is a big part of what Hudson Boatworks does. You work with a lot of these schools, and I know a lot of the alumni, both from UVic and UBC, they come work with you because you work with the athletes. How can people get involved? What's a good way for people to get involved if they're in love with this sport and want to get involved with Hudson Boatworks?
Well, I mean, just reach out to me directly, I suppose. But yeah, just join a club and keep rowing is the best way.
Join a club, keep rowing. I said, just keep digging deep. And then just finally, talk about how cool it is to be here at the iconic Brown Cup. This is so much fun, but it's something that the entire country does pay attention to because it's such a unique boat race.
Yeah, there are a few other duels between other schools, but this one is the premier boat race in Canada. And so it's great to be here supporting it, especially with a fantastic day like today with the nice weather we're having.
What's your favorite part of being here for a regatta?
Well, I love seeing the athletes competing and performing at their best, but from all my time in rowing, I have so many friends here as well that it's nice to catch up with them as well. So it can feel a bit like a homecoming coming to an event like this as well.
Well, Liam Parsons, thank you again for joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for being the presenting sponsor of the Brown Cup. Great racing. What do you remember about the umpires back in the day? You love them? You're on camera right now. Yeah, he loves them, is what he's going to say.
Yes, well, umpires are rarely given good feedback, but it's an essential part of the sport. And so, yeah, thank you so much for the contributions. They don't hear that enough.
Yeah, thank you to the umpires. That's fantastic. Now we have an interview with the umpires coming up. Have a listen.
Umpires at regattas, safety, and fairness, and in that sequence. If we have enough time left over, a little bit of fun as well. I've been umpiring since 2000 because it's a nice round number. This requires a really high level of professionalism, and as one of our umpires said, we may not be paid, but we're not amateurs either. this particular stretch of water, like it used to alternate between here and the Fraser River, but this particular stretch of water, obviously it's not straight line. This isn't your sprint racing with lanes. So you have natural obstacles, you have turns, you have all sorts of things that can happen, unpredicted things like, well, like geese getting a little complacent with fast shells coming upon them, harbor plane landing, everything that we have to be able to react to or take in stride. Well, unfortunately, one of the big things is that I always feel guilty about not going to the gym around, you know, these top flight athletes. It's a little bit embarrassing, but at least I can give them good officiating.
Hello and welcome back to the prestigious Brown Cup Regatta presented by Hudson Boatworks. My name is Paul Haysom. Thanks for watching on CHEK, on CHEK Plus and CHEK's YouTube channel. Now, we are joined by a UVic alumni, Alex Stapp, who just happens to be 2 feet taller than me. I have a chair here. I don't think that helps, Alex, but thank you for joining us. How nice is it to be back at the Brown Cup?
Oh, it's the best. I think it's one of the greatest rowing races in the country, if not like North America and or the world. It's the Canadian equivalent to what the Brits do. Yeah. Again, Oxford versus Cambridge, that's where the idea came from.
Down the Thames. Right.
Exactly, and it's just been, it's an epic experience to race in it, and it's an epic experience to win it, and just like between the two biggest rivalry schools in Canada, cannot have fun when you're here.
Yeah, it's the most fun you can have on the water. You're now the director of junior rowing at Victoria City Rowing Club. I know you have a lot of rowers who are probably in this event, but a lot of rowers who are part of your junior rowing program who have visions of going into this race one day.
100%, yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, if kids aren't sure that they want to row, and either if they're lucky enough or work hard enough to row either in a program in the States, the two schools in Canada where it's like the #1 place to be is either at UVic or UBC. They're always the #1 and 2 schools at every single national championships that occurs, and then with this duel that we have every single year, it makes it really, really easy for the programs to, you know, just like spend all this time working really hard to ensure that they keep being #1 and 2.
Yeah, I love that. He's getting messages as he's talking because his buddies are like, hey, I see you on TV right now, Alex. I love seeing that. You rowed 5 years with UVic, 4 years with the varsity program. You were the captain from 2018 to 2022. The Imagine If They Stayed project. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. That was a project that was developed by Albert and myself and my fellow assistant captains, where we basically really worked hard to make sure that every single freshman had a connection with an older guy on the team, so that way those young guys knew who they could talk to when they were going through a tough time in their life. And as everyone does, freshmen all through, and any university across Canada, everyone will have very hard experiences dealing with difficult stuff. But the biggest thing to remember is that you have friends you can count on. And what Liam was talking about a little bit earlier, it's just like you make these friends who are friends for life. And that's exactly what the program is trying to create. It's trying to create connections early, create bonds between guys who want to be there for each other. And it goes well beyond rowing. The guys who I was in charge of mentoring through that whole program, I still talk to on a very regular basis.
Wow. Powerful message, but important work you're doing. So thank you. So we're one-on-one today. Both sides have won a reserve race. Are you seeing for the alumni races a clean sweep from the Vikes? Is that what we want to see?
I would love to see that. 100%. We're hoping to bring the alumni race back at some point as well to this event. I think it would be really, really cool and really, really fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'd be a dog in that boat, I know for sure. Alex, thank you very much for taking the time. 100%. Thank you for having us here. We're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, we'll have the varsity races, starting with the men and then the women. You are watching the Brown Cup, presented by Hudson Boatworks.
We're a species that has existed since prehistoric times. Many are afraid of us, and with good reason. We didn't always look or act this way, but through years of evolution, we've refined ourselves to perform with a level of precision and determination that makes us the most feared creature of the sea. In the harsh environment we live in, the margin for error is too small for mistakes. We perform in a world where the details are what separates us from our competition. The pursuit is conducted with absolute precision. It's the final moment before execution. Our instincts begin to take over, and the pursuit becomes an attack. At this point, there's no going back. For a brief moment, we're reminded of who we really are, why we do what we do. This isn't a life for everyone. But then again, not everyone can be a shark.
us and the CHEK YouTube channel. My name is Paul Haysom. I'm going to be commentating some of this, but I'm not a rower. Thankfully, I've got one of those by my side, my co-pilot, Max Latimer. And Max, got to get these right. A Canadian Olympian, a Pan American gold medalist, and a former member of Team UBC, where you won two Brown Cups. And we've got 2 races to go. Maybe talk to me about the first 2 races, what you saw, and what you expect here for the final races.
I think it's something of a lot of what we can expect in our varsity races coming up. The JV races were super tight. UBC men got up and held their lead to the end. In the women's race, UBC had that lead, but that UVic crew came through in that final stretch.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race, that second race. The first one was good as well for Team UBC. It's a grueling race, a 3.5K race all the way down the Gorge waterway into the Inner Harbour. So we're going to take a look at the race map now. It all starts at Gorge Point Beach near Tillicum Narrows. Now, it is a fantastic, there we go, we're seeing the course here now. And the first 1,300 meters gets the racers to the Trestle Bridge. Then from there, it's a 600-meter dash to the Bay Street Bridge, followed by an 850-meter sprint to the Johnson Street Bridge, and then that 750-meter sprint down the finish line. What is that feeling like when you're nearing the end of that race, Max? Because you just got to be so tired at that point.
Absolutely. We call it the tale of 3 bridges. You know, those rowers are getting to those marking points, but once you enter the Inner Harbour, it's that final push, and you really get pressed to the absolute physical limits there.
Yeah, I bet. We're going to look at the tail of the tape now, and of course that is the ceremonial coin flip, and there's that mat. And I remember, Max, last year you told me they put that mat down because you don't want to lose a coin, right?
That is right. At my last Brown Cup, we had the loonie go right through the boards, and it was a bit of a contentious moment trying to look as to who had the heads and who had tails.
What's this moment like? You know, you're kind of coming out, a lot of your friends, family, and just, you know, some onlookers are watching, they're cheering you on. That's got to feel pretty cool in this moment.
It is very cool. You got to feel a little bit more like a celebrity. Rowing is a very humble sport. You spend a lot of time on the water. You're very far away from the fans. It's a moment to bring and really highlight who's in the crew. And I think the best part about it is the respect between these two great schools. A very storied relationship of competition over the years, but the tail of the tape is always all about respect.
Yeah, respect is huge, and that is going to be a fantastic race. Here we have the coin flip, and again, you're going for which lane or which station you're going to be on. Did you have a station or side you preferred to race from, Max?
Well, certainly you have the Victoria side and the Esquimalt side. The Esquimalt side has a bit of a bend at a very crucial point in the kind of first half of the race, but both are very equal, very fair. But it just depends on what style of crew you are and whether you want to be racing from ahead or maybe trying to play a crew from behind.
All right, we're just moments away from the race, the first race, which is going to be the men's varsity race right now. Let's hear from the captains.
Yeah, the boys are feeling good, feeling confident. We've put in a lot of good work, and yeah, we're confident in the work that we've done so far leading up to the event. And if we lean on that work that we've done and go out there and do what we've been doing, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, we're super stoked, like put a lot of work in training, and you know, it's really exciting to come here and perform now and execute on our race plan. So yeah, looking forward to that tomorrow. I think we've got 2 really fast boats, so yeah, just looking forward to getting after it. Bunch of new faces, some returners, but I think it's just the same focus, same process that we've had the past few seasons. I think we've done a really good job building, you know, UBC up to that really high standard. So it's just about, again, executing on what we're trying to do tomorrow. And then, yeah, we've done a lot of training through the winter. We did like a scrimmage against UW, which we learned a lot from. We went to Shawnigan Lake to race against RCA, and then we went for a training camp too. So it's been a lot of building since CUs, trying to push even more speed in the boat. So yeah, super excited and think it's going pretty well.
Varsity, yeah, like I know this is like last couple of years have been difficult, but I think if we can, like I said before, if we can count on the work that we've been doing and go out there and trust it and do it, we'll be in good shape. And looking to take the race to them, and I think it's going to be a great race.
So here we go. 2 races to go. We're going to start with the men's varsity, and what an iconic shot that is. Max Latimer along for the ride. Max, what are you going to be watching for at the start line? Some nervous energy there?
Absolutely, a lot of nervous energy. We're lucky here that they've chosen the time of day when the water is at slack tide, but there'll still be a bit of movement in the water, so athletes will be wanting to make sure that they're as clean as possible over those first few strokes.
And which boats are we seeing here? It looks like UBC's on the Esquimalt side here.
UBC on the Esquimalt side and UVic on the Victoria side. UBC in the dark blue and UVic in the white tops.
Okay, so UBC is looking to bounce back after the women's reserve race, which UVic won, but it seems like that Esquimalt line might be a little bit tougher to navigate some of those turns, but if you navigate them right, you can get a bit of a head start as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The start is so crucial in any dual race because it's you versus them. It's a 1v1 race. All of your energy goes into trying to get ahead of that one crew.
So the all-time races between the two sides since 1991, the UVic men have won 20. UBC have won 12, two of those from Max Latimer. And here we go. They are off and underway for the men's varsity race of the Brown Cup. What are you looking for right off the start here? You really want to get a good jump, Max.
Absolutely. You can see that these athletes have gone well above 40 strokes a minute off the start. They'll be looking to get away as quick as possible. Establishing a lead in a dual race is super, super important to be able to relax and lengthen and get a little more speed.
Yeah, and that is that 1,300-meter sprint to the Trestle Bridge. And we're going to look at the starting rosters here coming up. And the men's crews from UVic and UBC, any names jump out to you there, Max?
Yeah, we're quite lucky that a number of athletes in both of these institutions have been able to race for Team Canada. Giancarlo Di Pompeo on the UVic side, Joe Cullen and Liam Smith have all raced for the Team Canada in the summer times. So bringing that international palmarès to a domestic race here in Canada.
Giancarlo Di Pompeo has one of the greatest names ever. He's also Rowing Canada U23 Male Athlete of the Year, Rowing BC Athlete of the Year. So he is certainly someone who's going to help lead the way. And what are you liking here? This is a pretty good charge from both sides. UVic looking quite strong off the start.
Absolutely. I'm liking the clearance of the puddles here from the UVic squad. They've got a great clearance over the water as well, rowing quite clean. Also quite long. You can see the way that they swing into the finish, driving that oar right to the finish line, to the finish lead stroke.
Oh, it looks like UBC's jumped out to a pretty strong lead here. We have seen that kind of inside line, that Esquimalt line, seems to be a stronger line to start on. But what are you seeing as far as that first jump in this race? Do you want to see that much of a lead, or are you a little bit concerned if you're UVic there?
No,
Yeah,
absolutely. This is something I was talking to Coach Pierce, coach of the UBC men's team, around. He said the start has been something they've been absolutely focusing on, dialing in over the past month, really, of getting those two men's boats together at UBC and just going off again and again and again to practice the start in differing water conditions because of how important it is to be able to establish a lead. Because you can see that UBC has had a little bit of their puddle wake is just touching the edges of that UVic boat.
Yeah.
And that's something that the UVic Coxie and the UBC Coxie will want to be aware of.
Yeah, and UBC, they don't want to go too far behind, but of course they have a race plan. They've got to stick to their race plan. How much of that is methodical? In your, okay, we have a race plan, let's stick to it, or do you throw it out if you're losing by a couple of lengths?
No, you absolutely have to stick to the plan, but all of this goes to the coxswain. So that's the one thing amazing about eights racing is they have these coxswains in the back of the boat. They're the coach in the boat. They're one of the athletes driving the crews forward. And the athletes have to have complete trust in their coxswain because they're not looking out of the boat. They're asking their coxswain to give them the updates. They trust the coxswain's calls, and they'll make the moves as the coxswain sees fit.
Yeah, and those coxswain, it's all about economics for the coxswain because Oscar Wostenholm is the coxswain for UBC. He's a third-year economics student, and we've got Josie Rolfe as the coxswain for UVic. She's a first-year economics student, so they very much know when it's time to pay off. And what are you seeing here? Great shots here from Dan Batchelor in our drone camera.
Well, one of the things that I'm sure that the UVic boat is, or the coxswain is really trying to focus in on here is making sure that they're keeping that contact. And you can see just the tip of their bow keeping in contact with the tip of UBC's stern. And that's super important in duals racing because once that open water breaks up, there's a bit of a psychological aspect that comes into racing and knowing that your crew is down and has that much more to make up in the second half.
Yeah, and they're very close now to the Trestle Bridge and almost into the 1,300-meter portion of this race. You can see the crowds are building. How much do those crowds help as you're really starting to dig and find your pace as well?
Absolutely, and that's something that it's going to provide all these athletes with an incredible amount of energy. I can remember from my days of passing under the Trestle Bridge, that minute or so of into and out of the Trestle Bridge, it's almost like you can't even acknowledge the pain because the energy of the crowd almost starts to give yourself a bit of extra emotion.
Yeah, we are hearing it from here. We're our broadcast location, not too far away, and this is the first eyes that we can set on both the boats, and what a stunning shot that is coming down the Gorge waterway. And it looks like UBC is starting to pull away a little bit, and UVic doesn't want to lose too much ground here.
Yeah, very crucial point of the race. This is where those, if you are able to select the Esquimalt side, you have that benefit of the race course turning to starboard side, and so allowing UBC really staying as close as they could to the inside of that turn to gain as much distance as they could. But now the athletes in the UBC boat would be able to look up on the horizon and be able to see that UVic boat behind them.
And what does that do mentally?
Mentally, it's going to add a bit of confidence, but UVic here has to stay very focused in their boat. Let's trust their coxswain, trust the race plan, trust in the training they've done throughout the entirety of the winter. Leading up to this Brown Cup.
At what point do you get concerned that, okay, maybe we're not, where we want to be in our race plan, we're a little too far away here, we got to kick it into another gear?
I'm sure the coxswain is making those calls. I'm sure out of this bridge they would have had a part of the plan to be making a big push here. And if we know from the JV women's race,
yes,
that UVic team, they stayed in behind, they trusted the coxswain, trusted each other's teammates, and they were able to pull through. So I'm sure that is the kind of energy that they're trying to create in their boat right now.
We're nearing the halfway mark, or eventually the halfway mark of this race as they near the Bay Street Bridge. Not as many crowds on the Bay Street Bridge because they typically line up at the Johnson Street and the Trestle Bridge, but this is a 1,900 meter mark, and this is a pretty good barometer because I know a lot of the 8s races are typically 2,000 meters mark.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a distance that is very familiar with these crews. Any of the sprint racing that they do in the springtime and summertime and this fall will all be over a similar distance to this. But these crews would have been training a lot more endurance, a lot more longer distance training to make sure they're prepared for this 3.5 kilometer race course.
And do you do a lot of that training on ergs, or is it better just to be out there in the elements training?
The best part is the combination of both.
Right.
Through the wintertime when the weather is really tough. As well, these athletes, we have to remember, are going to school for 20 to 30 hours a week.
Oh, yeah, that as well.
Yeah. So they're training at 15, 20 hours a week and going to school. And so a lot of times it's leveraging as much training as you can on the weekends and leveraging that erg training at the campus to be able to stay close to your classes.
Yeah, and they are now, the UBC team, certainly past the Bay Street Bridge, UVic behind. They are almost a full boat length behind from that vantage point that we saw. Again, camera angles can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but it looks like UBC has a strong boat going. But UVic, what are you seeing on the faces here? They look like they're struggling. I'm sure everyone's struggling, but they're staying pretty focused here. That look back there.
Yeah, you can see that the athletes are absolutely pushing to their absolute limit, but what they're doing is you can see a lot of focus in that UVic boat. They're trying to keep, no one's looking around, no one's turning around to see where that UVic is. They're trusting their coxswain, trusting each other, making sure that they are doing as much as they can to try and get that boat moving forward.
And for UBC, I know this is something that they circle every year on the calendar, but it's basically an away game for the UBC team, and so they want to come, and they know that they swept it last year. They know that they want to come and make a mark. How much does that factor in, that you're kind of going against some home fans in Victoria, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great things about this race is that from the moment CU's ends in the fall, it becomes the thing that each of these crews would circle the calendar for. So you spend all of the winter, those dark days of training, and you're not even focused about your teammates. You focus on this one villain that you create this storyline of like who you're going to take on at the big Brown Cup race, and the whole spring season is dedicated towards this one race. And so these athletes will be coming here and they're pushing towards the finish line to be as fast as possible. It's not about the margin of victory, it's about going as fast as possible, squeezing every little bit of energy out of this race.
Yeah, and it looks like UBC has taken a stranglehold on this race. UVic still pushing. There's still a lot of race to go. They have that 850-meter race between Bay Street Bridge to Johnson Street. Then it's that 750-meter sprint to the finish line, and that's what they're coming onto now, the Johnson Street Bridge, and it looks like UBC's already underneath that span.
Yeah, and there's obviously, you can see a great crowd of fans that have come out from downtown. We've seen advertisements up at coffee shops. And,
I love it.
I think I had a friend text me from Victoria saying, "Hey, you coming over? I saw an advertisement." So it's members of the rowing community, members of the Greater Victoria community coming out here to watch this incredible sporting event here down in Victoria's Harbour.
Yeah, they're hooting and hollering, and what a stunning shot that is as you come into the Victoria Inner Harbour. The water looking pretty calm today. that helps for the race, but it looks like UBC, barring something unforeseen, have got this one pretty much strong here, Max.
Yes, absolutely. But this is a great shot here.
Oh, what
the
a great shot that is.
Look at the, flat water. You can tell the UBC crew will be able to see that UVic crew in the horizon. And for sure, they are absolutely pouring it on here. They're not going to hold back at all towards this finish line. They want to make sure that they emphatically get the victory in this race.
Yeah, because you can make up a lot of ground pretty quickly if a team thinks that they've already won or it's too close. And that's a good vantage point. I mean, you're seeing that UVic still very much in UBC's sight, so they're going to be pushing as well. And what a time. I mean, less than 9 minutes to get to the Johnson Street Bridge. We're in the final 750 meters here. It is going to come down to the wire, but you get a sense of those lines there. So UVic came basically into UBC's line. They got to make this turn and that final push, Max.
Yeah, and I know that there's a bit of a tweak to the race course here in the Inner Harbour, that kind of pivot into the corner of the harbour, and so perhaps maybe the UVic Coxie was taking a guidance from the umpire, but it seems that they may have missed that line a little bit. This UBC Cox and Oscar has done a great job at leading their boat through the final bit of this race course.
You're watching the men's varsity race here at the Brown Cup, presented by Hudson Boat Works, and it appears that UBC's boat works. They are coming down to the finish line. We're hitting the 10-minute mark, and it looks like they're very close to crossing the buoy and crossing off another win at the Brown Cup, Max.
Yeah, fantastic. Last few strokes here, the athletes coming through the finish line. And that's the moment that they would have been thinking about from the moment that CU's finished. It was trying to get to this finish line and celebrate a victory. Congratulations to the UBC crew.
Yeah, and talk about that feeling, because that was a strong race by UBC. UVic put in a fantastic race as well as they crossed the finish line here a little bit behind the UBC boat. But what does that feeling feel like? You've put in all the hours, all the training. You've called them a villain. Like you said, you're going head to head. And now you can breathe, and I'm sure you're breathing pretty heavy as well.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky in my days of rowing to have been victorious in this race, but I've also lost a couple times in this race. And I've been in this exact scenario where the cheers of the crew from the other school are being echoed in the harbor, and you're there with your crew, and nothing but the breath in between your teammates. And you would have known you would put all the work that you could into this event, and you have to remember that you have to trust the process.
Yes.
You can only go as fast as you can, and if you put all your effort into that oar as stroke over stroke, then that's all you can be satisfied with.
We're 3 races down here at the Brown Cup. That's 2 for UBC, 1 for UVic, which means we've got 1 race to go. Big thank you to all our fantastic sponsors here. And of course, Hudson Boat Works is the title sponsor, but we couldn't do it without all of these amazing sponsors. Thanks for watching on CHEK, on CHEK Plus, and the CHEK YouTube page. We're back with 1 more race at the Brown Cup. Stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the Brown Cup presented by Hudson Boat Works. Yes, the stage is set for one final race, the Varsity Showdown on the women's side. Thanks again for joining us on CHEK, on CHEK Plus, and the CHEK YouTube channel. My name is Paul Haysom. I'm joined here by Max Latimer. Max, what have you seen so far in the first 3 races of the day?
Well, very exciting victories for both of the men's boats, the JV and the varsity men from UBC. But a really, really great race. I think race of the day goes to that JV women's race so far. Yeah. Really exciting, tight racing. One crew holding the lead, the UBC crew having the lead for a long part of the course, and that UVic crew fighting with the resiliency back to crown victory. You just saw us there. That was our broadcast location right here at the Gorge Narrow Rowing Club. I was trying to wave to the drone. Don't think it could see me, but we do have that one race to go. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape. We've talked a whole lot about that 3.5 kilometer course. It all comes down, and there we go. There's the Brown Cup on your left, the Dowd Cup on your right. And talk about this moment here. This is the final race, and they know there's a lot of pressure involved as well, Max. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that being a part of these two schools, UBC and UVic, you count your number of Brown Cups that you've competed in. To make this team to be a part of this great race. It's only the 16 rowers and 2 coxswains that get to be a part of it, so it's a really special occurrence. You know, I love that Howard Campbell and Joe Dowd, I think I just called it the Dowd. Of course, it's the Campbell Dowd Cup, but they started this race as a friendly duel in 1991. They wanted to base it off the iconic Oxford versus Cambridge, and it's unique, you know, the dark blues and the light blues, which is very similar to Oxford and Cambridge, which you love to see. And there's the coin toss, there's the handshake, and now the pleasantries are done, right, Max? Absolutely, yeah. I can remember from a few of the Brown Cups that in that captain circle when you're calling the coin toss, and that squeeze of the hand from the captain from across the way. And there's a lot that goes into a handshake. Well, there's a lot that goes into the final race as well. And for one final time, let's have a chat with the captains.
There's definitely a lot of excitement. I think we're all really grateful to be coming into this with the position we're in. But yeah, there's a lot of that nervous excitement, kind of that anticipation. Like, this is what we've been training for the last few months, so yeah.
For the varsity crew, a little bit of a different lineup than we had at CU's. So different boat, a little bit of a different crew. But I think we've been feeling really good. We've made some good changes and feeling quite confident in our rhythm. So we're excited to see what we can do on race day.
Last year we got that we got to come into this with that underdog mentality, and now we're all very grateful to be in the defending position, but we also we won't take that for granted, and I think there's just that feeling across the whole team right now.
I think CU's also fueled the fire a little bit, really wanting to come back and get that win over their varsity 8. So there's definitely a lot of excitement and fuel to the fire.
There's just so much respect and trust between the two programs, but when we get on the water, UVic is who we're here to compete against, and at CU's you saw the same thing, that rivalry continues. So yeah, I'm predicting a UBC sweep.
I'm going to say we're going to take them both. Yeah, I'm confident in our crews, and we'll see what we can do tomorrow, but either way it's going to be a good race.
Well, I don't think a sweep is going to happen, but potentially in the varsity races as we go to the start line at Gorge Point Beach, and they are off. Here we go. And we have, I believe, UVic on the Esquimalt line.
UVic on the Esquimalt side and UBC on the Victoria side.
And here we go. A strong start from both boats. UVic definitely coming out powered. If you're looking at the all-time results on this race, the UVic women 26 wins, the UBC women 6 wins, but that 6th win came last year at the Brown Cup, Max.
Absolutely. When you have that defending champion title, that's that swagger that carries you through the season. It's something that it'll be a bit of a target on your back when you enter the race course here today. But something that the girls will be prepared for.
Now let's talk about ramping up, because you're starting from 0 and you've got to get into that rhythm. How quickly do you want to find that rhythm and you're in that boat and kind of make sure that all 8 rowers are on that rhythm as well?
Absolutely. There's a physiological change that happens in the athlete at about the minute mark. That's switching from your kind of high intensity ATP system more into your endurance aerobic system. but it's a very painful moment in the race that you have to embrace a lot of technical changes as you look to lengthen out, add a little more length and power to your rowing stroke.
You can see the faces. They are getting gritty here. They are ready for this final race of the Brown Cup. We're going to take a look at both teams here. And what names jump out to you there, Max?
Again, very lucky in these schools to have the international Palmares between,
Yes.
as we know, Parker and Illingworth and Lindsay Bryden are both medalists at the under 23s racing for Canada in the women's 8. So they bring a lot of experience from this boat class to the Brown Cup.
Yes, Ella Diaz is the coxswain for UBC. Sophie Hoff, the coxswain for UVic. And Sophie ruined our streak because Ella is also an economics student, a third-year economics student. Sophie, though, a biology and psychology student, fourth year. So Sophie, fantastic major, deciding to go into that realm. And it looks like UVic's taking a strong start here. They're really jumping out to a big lead. UBC can't panic at this point, though, can they?
Absolutely not. And this definitely would have been the tactic of the UVic crew, knowing that they have this slight advantage in the first bits of the race and being on the Esquimalt side. And so if you watch the start, they shot out and had a bit of a higher rate of striking than the UBC crew. But it seemed as though both crews have kind of settled onto the rhythm and haven't seen too much changes since that first kind of 500 meters or so. So it'll be very interesting to see as we come through up and through the Trestle Bridge as to what kind of happens as these races unfold right in front of us.
You know, UVic has got a strong start. They also have some young people in their bench, or at least some fresh faces. Zoe Skogna making her varsity 8 debut in the bow seat. First-year standout lightweight rower Kate Watson also making her first appearance in the varsity 8. Is there a sense of, oh, you come off with a bang because this is your first Brown Cup and that energy is there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the athletes would have that anticipation of the start. But there can be a bit of extra nervousness if it's your first Brown Cup.
And you can't win the race in the first 10 seconds.
Absolutely not. I mean, we would have seen that in the men's JV race, the UBC crew, the women's JV race, the UBC crew shooting out to that lead, and then the UVic crew trusting in their training and in their fitness. And if you look here, again, I called out in the first race that bow ball having contact with the stern. That is something for sure the coxswains would be honing in on, making sure that the elastic band doesn't snap, that holds those crews together. Is that psychological and a bit of a tactical piece.
Yeah, and how close would you want to keep that if you're saying, okay, we can play off the other boat here, but we don't want to go X amount of distance too far? Does that factor in, or is it not so much?
Yeah, you want as much contact as possible.
Right.
I don't think anyone's ever going to technically say, okay, we're going to let the crew get away from us, but it's just something that you have to hone in on in the race, because it just gives that crew that's up and ahead a bit of extra confidence so that they're able to relax a little bit more, lengthen out a little bit more, save a little bit of energy by rowing a little bit more efficiently. But when you put that pressure under the crew, that shoulders tends to tighten up. You can add a little bit of, can find a way to break their rhythm a little bit.
And there we go. We can hear the hooting and hollering on the Trestle Bridge. This is the 1,300 meter mark. UVic having a slight lead over UBC. This is the final race of the day, the varsity women, and oh yeah, the fans are coming out for it. And this is good racing conditions, isn't it? It's warm, it's sunny, but it's not too hot right now.
No, absolutely not. But there's also fantastically good water conditions, both from the tidal perspective, but also the wind has been quite very, very calm day. So very fair racing. As you can see here now, this UVic crew will have are taking the turn to starboard side, which puts their boat on a bit of an advantage. But the UBC crew is doing a great job of just keeping on the edge of that water, those puddles on the edge.
It looks like it's a bit of a tighter line that UBC can take, because obviously UVic is on the edge there. But is UVic almost taking a bit too wide of a line there in your eyes?
It's something that the coaches were talking about with this addition of this second buoy to point out to the rock that's just submerged below the surface, that would be a total hazard to racing. And I imagine there's a call here from the umpires that's just getting those UVic crews to move to starboard side to make sure that they're staying true to the golden line.
Yes, the golden line. I like that. And this is a golden part of the race, 600 meters between Trestle Bridge and the Bay Street Bridge. And a lot of these crews will certainly break it up into these 4 races based off the 3 bridges that you go under at the time. And it looks like UBC is actually making up a little bit of ground. Do you think it was off that turn?
Well, I think that the ability to hold the UVic crew close to that turn would give this crew a lot of confidence. If I'm the coxswain, I'm honing in on the fact that they're able to hold the crew while they have that turn to starboard and say, hey, girls, if we can keep our legs, we can keep our rhythm, we're going to be able to get the next turn to port side.
Fantastic shots from our roll focus team out here. They're on 2 boats. We're on land. We're on a drone. We're everywhere here, and we're getting the fantastic shots as they make their way under the Bay Street Bridge. This is the 1,900-meter mark of the race, and what's happening? The legs, the quads, the arms, the head, it's all got to be burning, Max.
Absolutely, and this is dual racing is drag racing, and so there's an element of, it doesn't necessarily matter where the finish is. We just need to keep our bow ball ahead of theirs.
Wow.
And but tactically, we talked about those bridges. Now this is that third segment of the race course that the UBC crew is saying, this is our chance to have that first little bit of advantage. Can we get a little more overlap? Can we feel that crew and start to hear that crew from UVic beside us, which will give them confidence now that they're coming back more into the race.
And they're making up some ground here right now. And this is a very, as you mentioned, tactical part of the course, because while you make several turns, this is a pretty substantial turn right before the Johnson Street Bridge, before you come out to that all-out sprint.
Yeah, so now they have a segment of 300 meters or so that is going to be straight. Now we've got 3-4 seats that overlap. The UVic crew will have to know this UBC crew has come back on them, and they're saying, hey, girls, we have the confidence. This is part of our race plan. We get the next turn to starboard side. And the UBC crew is saying, hey, girls, now we're into it.
Now we
Second
are
half of the
into
race,
it.
the momentum is all with that UBC crew. It's just going to determine us who can hold the momentum into the last second half of the
You
race.
can see the pain, the anguish on the faces there. They are digging deep as they can as we get down to the final strokes here of the final race of the day. And all respect to both the men's varsity race and the men's reserve race. The women came to race today, and this is going to be a fantastic finish, Mike.
I mean, when I think of Brown Cup, this is what I think
this
of.
Is
this
awesome.
is more of my experience that I remember.
Here we go.
The anxiety of being in a tight race like this, but also the excitement to have the blades be that close, to have put in months and months and months of effort targeted at this one crew, and now they're right beside you.
Look how close we are. There's a 3-second difference. Doesn't feel like 3 seconds, and UBC is certainly making up time here, as you can see it on the faces there. They are digging deep here down to the final stretch. They will pass that Johnson Street Bridge. This is an 850-meter race between Bay Street Bridge and the Johnson Street Bridge, and once they get under it, that is going to be an all-out sprint to the finish line. And just what's happening right now on a mental aspect of the boat, because you are pushing, but you got to remain tactical as well. Right?
Absolutely. It was a great shot of the UBC crew. It seemed that there was almost a little bit of relaxation, and we talked about that rookie element to the UVic boat. You talk about the veteran element to that UBC boat. A bit of calmness off the start line, which is now paying off in this ability to stay calm. They've been able to stay consistent with their stroke rate, and imagine to be able to hold a little bit more of that boat speed into the second half of the course. That UVic crew is now incredibly under pressure as we come up on the next bridge in that final fourth segment of the race.
They've got some young people in that boat on UVic, but they are also about to get spurred on by all the crowd here at the Johnson Street Bridge, the 2750-meter mark of this race, and here we go. We are off to a final finish. It looks like UBC has taken a slight edge here at this market.
This would be kind of almost deafening as you go under. You have the sound of the oars echoing under those bridges, but those fans, again, it's a moment where you wouldn't even feel the pain because of the emotion of how exciting it is in a race like this.
And what a push it is. We are down to the final 750 meters of the day. UVic is going to have to dig deep as UBC has taken a slight lead, but they've got one more slight turn before this final push here, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. The Inner Harbour is always a bit of a question mark. It's not something, a body of water you spend a lot of time on. And there's lots of going on, lots of boats around, but it's a little more open too. So we were a bit on the Gorge narrow waterway where the shore's a little bit tighter. You're a little more open here in the Inner Harbour.
Yeah, that's right. You're going through all the iconic landmarks. You start coming into view there. You can see the Parliament building. You can see the seaplanes. And you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This race coming down to the wire. We're just past the 10-minute mark. We should be potentially seeing a winner here in the next minute and a half, and it looks pretty neck and neck here. UBC still keeping that strong, consistent pace.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all to play for here in this final bit of racing. Great shot here of the two crews. The UBC crew taking that little bit of an advantage, a few seats of the lead. That'll give them some confidence as they look to lift their stroke rate towards the finish line here.
And Sophie's saying to her team, let's dig deep, let's dig deep. This is the final push, and we can catch them. We can still do it as we get down to the final strokes here of the Brown Cup. This is the women's varsity race. UBC with a slight lead, but UVic pushing and trying to claw back here Oh, what are you seeing on those faces?
Yeah,
they're digging right now.
They're absolutely digging, and they're staying. There's a little bit of chop on the wall. You'll see that roll from the Inner Harbour. Again,
right.
Something that you absolutely would have planned for with your coxswains, with your team, because you know there's a lot of boat traffic here. And one thing that UBC is doing very well is they're staying very long and linear at the front end. So really long strokes, making sure that they're keeping that power into the finish line here.
And here we come. These are the final strokes there. They passed all the bridges. Now it's time to close out the Brown Cup, and it looks like the varsity UBC women are powering. Consistent, strong and steady is going to win the race today, and they are the Brown Cup champions for 2025, Max.
And that's the moment you dream about right there. All spring, all winter. It's that splash of the oars, that celebration with your teammates, the hugs inside the boat. That's what makes it all worth it.
And there's a lot of respect you can see on both sides. They say, okay, so it was a 4.9, and really it was UBC who came out strong at the end because it was neck and neck. UVic had that lead. UBC reeled them back in, and again, just kept that consistent pace.
Again, I mean, just tons of respect to the crews that raced today.
Yes,
like this was an incredible race to watch. It
really was.
And just fantastic racing by the UVic women, getting out to that lead, putting the pressure under the UBC crew, and then making the UBC crew respond. I mean, that was just textbook. If you have the advantage on the Esquimalt side, that's just textbook racing. It's something that will definitely make the crews hungry for racing this summer and racing in the fall again.
So that is it. Another Brown Cup in the books. We've had 4 races. UBC winning 3, UVic winning 1. They weren't swept this year, and I got to say that one win that UVic had was probably the best race of the day. Final thoughts, Max, on a fantastic day of rowing here in beautiful Victoria.
Yeah, just a beautiful event. Thank you to all the sponsors, to all the fans that came out. This is an event that means so much to the communities that built around these 2 schools, the alumni, myself included, but also just to the sports fans in Victoria and just people part of the community. It's such an amazing event to have, and we're so lucky to have it in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia.
Yeah, we really are. We are honored to be broadcasting here on the traditional territories of both the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Thank you for having us. Thank you for watching on CHEK, on CHEK Plus. And yes, you can celebrate and then take just a little bit of a break, because you got to realize you got to row all the way back to celebrate with your fans.
Yeah, and that's the great part of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the row you enjoy after a win. So congratulations.
Well, to all the competitors, great job out there. Thank you for some fantastic racing for Max Latimer, for Zoe Cruikshank, for the entire Roll Focus crew. Thank you for joining us for the 2025 Brown Cup. It was another fantastic day of racing down the Gorge waterway. Yes, Victoria, you sparkled. UBC shined again. We will see you next year. That's it for the 2025 Brown Cup.
Everybody, let's have a good show.